We are coming at you live. It's what's today?
It's
February 11th.
Yes. The code is 11.
Yeah, yeah, just like like a lot of things are 11, which is a big important number, right?
It is.
Okay, Lalo's my co-host because
I'm your
Sandra's
co-host.
not here yet.
Yeah, and because it's a really good idea to make me co-host when I have no idea of what I'm doing. It's a special treat for everybody watching Liquid Lunch.
I just wish we would have got that conversation you were having before we started with Ryan, because that was quite. Let's get into some of that.
Whoa, sure.
I could reiterate some of the key points.
Okay, this is Ryan.
Ryan Welfe, yes.
Welfe, who looks Norwegian, but he's actually
German-Ukrainian.
German-Ukrainian.
Although born here in Canada.
So how come you said you looked Norwegian-Scottish?
Well, most people think I'm Scottish because of the reddish tones I have in my hair.
Yeah.
And I also am sort of well known for a Scottish accent.
Really?
That I do, yes. Which I will not do here right now, but maybe later.
That's okay. We've all heard enough Scottish accents,
exactly,
right?
It's all
I'm
about the
Scottish.
usage.
What?
I'm actually Scottish.
You don't look Scottish?
I know I don't look Scottish, but I really feel I feel Scottish, and I had a dream once that I was Scottish.
Interesting.
I'm part Scottish. Did you know that?
No.
Yes.
Oh.
Part
Well,
Scottish.
appearances, aren't everything, Don't take things at face value.
Actually, before we get into it with Ryan here, we should just say who's coming on the show. We are expecting Sandra sometime, but if not, we got you, Lalo,
That's right.
and you're crazy, so
I-
anything could happen, right?
That's right.
Wild card.
People call me the glue, and really it's the crazy glue
That you're sniffing.
that I'm sniffing that allows me to just switch hats, like this.
Exactly.
Nobody
And-
really knows what I do here, and now I'm here.
And it doesn't matter what hat you're wearing, as long as you can glue it to the crossbar, right?
That's right. That's right. Then because I like being high up there.
Exactly. So we've got Zach Green coming on the show from Fatal Pictures. He's got a new movie out.
He does.
He's a
and
producer.
He is a producer, and I saw the clips from his film. His work is actually amazing. It's really intense and really
And we're going to
quality
watch
stuff.
some of those clips a little bit when Zach gets here on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Bob Dunn is here in the studio, coming back on the show. He's always doing something unique with health, and I think that's what we're talking about today, but we'll find out for sure.
Yeah,
in a
I
little
really
bit.
enjoyed talking to Bob on the phone because there's so many healthcare practitioners that are doing amazing things and coming up with all these great things, and then they're running up against a problem in our mainstream medical system.
Yeah, which is going to die, and it won't be soon enough before our mainstream medical system crashes and burns.
Yeah, everything is falling away. We were talking about that earlier.
We're going to get into it with Ryan in a second, but we also got Gwen Deegan and Trish Moon coming on the show. They are Americans living in Canada who are really pissed at this legislation the government has put on the table in Ottawa that basically sells American Canadians down the river, betrays them to the IRS, so the U.S. government can collect taxes from them to pay off the 14 or 16 billion that they've run up because their government is out of control.
Right, they're trying to tax them just because they move.
And causing wars all over, which is what these Americans, in many cases, are trying to escape, all that warmongering. And now our government sold them down the river. We got to do something about this. Ryan,
Yes.
what should we do about it?
What should we do about it? I don't know, just open a dialogue, talking about these things as much as possible, and with a whole ton of different people is what sort of solves it, right? I mean, not kind of, watching sort of something on television or just purely reading, but talking about it. It's a simple thing, but...
But, so we talk about it, and then the government just passes the legislation anyway, builds the FEMA camps, beefs up the police force, militarizes it, and then the jackboots come a-calling, at our door one day, and even no matter how much talking we did about it.
You know what you do when they show up is you just say, "Hey, can I make you a sandwich?"
That always works. Sandwiches do work.
And yeah, nobody thinks of that. So when, I've thought of that before. If no one has ever tried to burglarize me, right? But I'm like, if a burglar comes in, I'm not going to scream. I'm just going to say, "Can I make you a sandwich?"
I could see that going horribly wrong. No.
Well, kind of sounds like a sort of the Taoist thing where it says, "Give evil nothing to oppose, and it disappears." Right? You come with evil, it's like. Here you go.
Okay. Tell us more about that, Ryan. It sounds like you might be onto something here.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. Taoism, I guess, is something I'm partially interested in. I'm partially interested in a lot of things, but I'm just still trying to figure it out as I read it, because
Yeah.
I feel like these types of Eastern thought are presented to confuse the intellect, right? To bring out these paradoxes so that they start thinking and thinking.
Like
and
a
thinking.
cone, or like CBC Entertainment, sort of like an oxymoron. Things that
Yeah, oxymorons, right? Keyword moron, I guess.
don't make sense.
Yeah.
Poor CBC.
Yes.
They can't make any good shows, even with all those tax dollars.
I know. Yeah, I really should watch it more just so I have more of an opinion on
Oh,
CBC.
nobody watches CBC.
I don't.
No, we just know that it's there.
It's there when we need it.
Right. But you don't need it.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm getting in trouble now with the Friends of Canadian Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. We think you're great.
But we love you. We would make you a sandwich, but
But
still.
I just want to say this, even though we're slagging the CBC, the CTV is way worse.
Yeah.
See, I've watched that more though.
Of course, because they're running American shows, because they have no creativity, and they do not believe in Canadian culture.
Well, I think of the Degrassi shows when I think of CTV.
That was on. I think that was originally a TVO show,
Oh.
right?
Because I think they had the Next Generation one on now.
I don't know what that O would stand for.
Ontario.
Ah.
See,
Well-
you're from out west. You
I'm
don't
from BC.
understand,
That's
right?
Bud Country, if you're wondering what BC stands for.
Yeah, it's short for BC Bud,
That's right.
right?
That's right. And I'm here, and I think that Ontario is great.
Well,
Yeah.
TVO is a good
I do.
channel. I have lots of memories with that in particular, just because of reading Rainbow and all the educational programs on it. At a very young age, I watched because they kind of centered it around children.
Is Reading Rainbow from Ontario?
I don't think so, but they
Because I was
paired
about
it.
to love Ontario. I was about to. I've only been here for the winter. I'm sure it's better in the summer, right? It's a nice. How long have you
It
lived
gets
here
warm
for?
in Ontario.
Yeah.
For my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I shouldn't say anything bad about it. And if Reading
We
Rainbow
understand.
actually.
We-
Hey,
Sandra's
our
here.
real co-host is here. So Crazy Glue is just about out of a temporary gig here in the co-hosting chair.
Well, let's just keep this going as if
Yeah.
nothing has happened, and Sandra can get ready, and then when you guys can feel the vibe to make the switch, we can even do it mid-interview if you want,
possible.
whatever it is. But while
Yeah.
you're here, Lalo, let's get it all out. I just wanted to say something about
Sure.
the Tao as you're talking about you remove. So somebody once was talking about Gandhi
Okay.
and what he did in India as the revolutionary movement that he basically freed India from the British
Right.
whatever rule, and he kind of adopted that approach, right? He sort of said, nonviolence, took that approach, which worked with the British. But some people have speculated that if it was the Germans that he was dealing with, the Nazis, that approach wouldn't have worked. It depends kind of on
That
who
is
your
totally a
enemy is.
sandwich situation. Come on, Germans, sandwiches. I think that's all they pretty much eat. Aren't they just with the bread and the meat?
Well, you know what? In a sausage form. In the
Yeah.
form of a sausage,
Bratwurst.
right? Which reminds me, actually, what we could do now before we take a little break, because we have the band Super Bowl commercial.
He's got a sausage segue in
This
here
is the
somewhere.
bu- this is the-
This is why he's the pro.
This is. I didn't know it was going there, but you want to do the sausage segue?
Wild.
And then you.
I'd love
or
to.
do you
My
wanna spend
name
more
is
time with
Helga
Ryan?
Bagalga. I'm from Sweden, and I can teach men how to do internal massage.
Sweden.
Is that the
Oh,
sausage segue?
The last time we tried that,
well, we got the sausage ready to go. But did you want to get into more about the yoni massage with Ryan here?
I think it's important. Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about this, weren't we?
We were talking about that. We were talking about how the modern woman needs to have certain skills, like you want to be able to kiss a man with a rubber in your mouth without him knowing it, right?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about how, when I was younger, we learned about all these, sort of protective measures in health class, right? But they never taught us about these particular skills, right? They just kind of taught us the cold sort of, hey, this is a condom, this is a female condom, this is this is that, this is
Right.
this, you know, all the bells and whistles, right?
Right. Well, a girl needs to be taught how to get that on without him noticing.
That's true.
Right? Tuck it in the mouth and do the whole routine.
I don't know. I think that'd be tricky to do without.
Oh, it is tricky. That's why it requires practice.
It does.
Yeah, and
right?
that's
and
why.
that's what the new health programs in Ontario schools is all about. Thanks to
is.
Premier what's her name, who won't be
Wayne.
around for very long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why an older woman with a younger man it's so important.
It is. Well, I mean, you know, age is wisdom, as far as I know. Although, even I think small babies know things too. You know, they're born into the world. I mean, maybe not sexually.
No, actually, I would say small babies know everything when they come in, and then we sort of teach them out of most of the awesome things that they come here with. They come here with pure love, right? It's very godlike.
Well, I guess when babies are born, there's, in their point of view, there's really no distinction between them and the world, right? And it's once they learn that separation, that's when
I
they
haven't yet.
No?
Has anyone noticed that here at that channel? That I don't understand the separation between myself and everything else that's going on.
Oh.
That is it. It's called, that's the part of our ego called the id.
Ah, yes.
And we're supposed to move out, or else we just become an idiot.
You see, that's what I don't like about, you know, the word.
I think Sandra might be ready. She's
It seems like
blowing on me from
Okay,
behind.
well,
wild
we
card.
were on that subject, and while we're on that subject,
Are you ready for the sausage? Let's do the sausage. This is the, because it's a segue. It's just natural. This was a Super Bowl that was banned. I mean, a commercial that was banned from the Super Bowl.
yeah, the sausage one.
Yeah.
These are some
So,
stuff-
Sandra, I want you to see this. This is a commercial
Sandra?
that was banned for the
There you
Super
go.
Bowl. This is number,
Hello.
this is number 6.
Horrible
So let's
video.
watch this, and we're going to come back with Brian as Liquid Lunch gets underway again.
Hi, everybody. I didn't even know.
Oh my God! Don't ever do that to me again.
On?
The new big sausage breakfast. With 3 eggs, loads of melted cheese, and a full foot of sausage. Open wide. It's breakfast time. The big sausage breakfast. Only at Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. Eat like you mean it.
And we're back here on the show, and Sandra. So, do you see why that commercial was maybe banned from the Super Bowl?
God. Yeah.
Really?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Yeah. In the future, that will be commonplace.
Yeah, you know, I wonder how long that's going to take. That's actually a really good point, Hugh. I
Why?
wonder
Why?
how long that's going to take.
What? For that kind of thing to become commonplace?
Yeah, because you know, every year we get dumbed down a little more.
You
and more
think?
And more. Oh my God.
Really?
I don't. But you know what? The thing is, I don't even know
Yeah.
that the name of that place.
It's in the U.S.
I know, but it's not.
They don't have it here, but it's a
not
real
like
restaurant.
a McDonald's.
It's
or,
Hardee's, I think. Hardee's. It's in the U.S. They don't
that's
have it
a
here.
chain.
Yeah, it's a chain in the U.S.
That's quite a name too.
Hardee's.
For
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
This is Ryan.
Hello.
Okay, Ryan.
Let's bring Ryan in.
So, yeah. So, what do you think about that?
The commercial?
Yeah.
Uh,
And the sociological implications of
well, let's
such
see
a thing.
here. To be perfectly frank, I mean,
Frank, like a hot dog, Frank?
oh man.
Okay. Oh, he is just so on. Oh
Well, I mean,
my.
that's perfect material for coming
Yeah.
up with puns.
Yes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I can see why maybe it would be taken down because of objectifying women.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if they did more of that stuff with men as well, right? Just
Yes.
to kind of like balance it out.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Have, like a guy just sort of doing certain things, and it might even cause more like controversy. But I think that would be-
Actually, that's a very good point. I actually think if they did a similar thing with the opposite, So with a male, oh my God, that would be through the roof. Actually, that would be I wonder if they would be allowed to do that. I wonder if they did it that way, if they would have got on. If it wouldn't have been censored and pulled.
I don't know.
So because there's like
That
there's a lot
would be
of-
amazing. That's a good point.
For sure. I mean, there was that song, I guess, by Katy Perry, "I Kissed a Girl," right? But I wonder what would have happened if it was like "I Kissed a Man," but it was like advancing.
Yeah,
It just
yeah,
makes me think.
yeah. That's a very,
See,
very
that's
good.
the song I always sing at karaoke.
It's a great song.
Yeah,
I
it's
kissed
a
a
good
girl.
song.
Yeah, you don't
Really
have to
good
change the
kicker.
lyrics.
I don't. No, that's right. I don't. But I do anyway.
So when I was watching that commercial, I mean, I was okay with the commercial. I was like split because I was thinking, oh my God, they want to play this at, like, all that was in the back of my head. Like, they want to play this during the Super Bowl. That was permeating and causing my judgment. But the commercial itself is harmless. It's really nothing. But what kept going through my mind is, oh my God, they want to put that at the Super Bowl.
Oh, see, I was just thinking about hot dogs.
Yeah, sure you were. A different kind of hot dog.
Okay, Ryan.
Here, we can take this. I'm going to leave this. We're going to take this wherever you want to go. Just because I'm wearing this plaid, very conservative, schoolish sweater doesn't mean
Yeah.
I can't follow.
Well, we're here to talk to Ryan. Right, Ryan?
Take your time, you know.
Well, we're
Well, I think
Obviously are.
Ryan's got something. Ryan's actually is a very bright young man with a lot of insights. So I'd like to hear what he has to say
yes.
on why he's here.
Ryan,
I mean,
go.
Go.
Hello,
No pressure.
Yeah, you want me to introduce myself, I guess?
Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
sure. Just before we said my name was Ryan Welfe. That's the name I was born with. And I, for simplicity's sake, would say I'm an artist. I do a lot of different types of art, writing, music, and visual art. And it's just kind of like a rotating sort of roster of that, pretty much.
Okay. Now, are you here for that today?
I'm here to talk about whatever we sort of get to, I guess. I mean, I could sort of talk about writing. That's sort of.
Oh, yeah,
something
that's
I've
what you
been
wanted to
recently-
talk about.
Yeah, a little bit
amateur
about that.
writing. So, yeah, let's talk about that. Because I hear writing's disappearing. Nobody
It
reads.
is. Well, I mean,
You
it
say that
is.
to everybody, yet we have so many writers. How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Well, like it is and it isn't, because we're doing a lot of writing because of internet, right? So people are typing and sending messages and putting things online. So that's a type of writing, and it's
Yeah.
forcing people to do it. And it's all because of immediate exposure, right? But I mean, I guess there still are quite a few people writing, and if I really want to get into it, I have a book and I just handwrite it, even
Yeah.
if I'm going to put it out there. And I stress the term amateur writer because I don't really have anything published, and I usually like to get out the message that anybody can just start writing and consider themselves a writer right away without thinking, oh, I need to do this particular thing, and then, I've made it.
To me, anybody, if you write, you're a writer. I think calling it amateur is really irrelevant.
Yeah.
Really, if you write, you're right. And you know what? When we talk, when we say, I'm a big talker, do we say I'm an amateur talker?
Yeah.
Right. So long as we have speaking, I think we're going to have writing. So I don't think writing's a dead art at all. I don't think so. I think as long as we communicate through verbally, it will be through sound, and it'll be through in book or some form of reading, whether it's on the computer or whatever.
Well, I like the term amateur because it implies sort of a childhood sort of angle. So, like, when like a kid starts to draw, right? They don't really know the rules, and they just kind of do whatever. And,
So you can get away with a lot more when you call yourself an amateur. Is that what you're saying?
It's exactly it, essentially, right?
But you're
It's
still
like-
not going to get paid.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's like besides it, because the ventures that I've done with the intention of perhaps getting money down the road have been enjoyable, but it's been a different sort of thing. Like, I've done visual art with the intention of selling it, and the things that I actually put my effort in to sell didn't get sold as much as the things that I actually just did for fun and then got sold.
That's not funny? That's the way it works.
That's
eh?
interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works
So
that way.
what do you write about?
Well, I write about a bunch of different topics. These days I write about music, a particular subgenre of music called dream pop or shoegaze.
What?
It's
You heard of
Shoegaze.
that?
Yeah, but I pronounce it Shugazi.
Fugazi, yeah. I've actually heard that term too. It reminds me of the band Fugazi. I don't know.
Exactly.
Like an aggressive form of it,
Is
I guess.
and you said dream something?
A dream pop.
So what is that?
Is that the same
exactly?
thing?
I never knew what that was.
Shoegazi or shoegaze, is that dream pop another
Well,
word for?
Basically, shoegaze is a term that gained prominence in the late 80s or early 90s through the British press.
I've
So
never heard of it.
It was essentially a term thrown upon a bunch of bands that used a lot of guitar effects. So on stage, they'd be kind of like looking at the pedals and clicking them on and off while they're playing. As well, the
Instead of
musicians-
performing
So it looks like they're
Instead of,
gazing
like,
at their
the
shoe.
audience.
outward
Yeah.
performance.
So it looks like they're gazing at their shoe.
Exactly. So it was a
Oh my
derogatory
God.
term. at
Right.
once.
So give us an example of some bands that are shoegaze
Well,
bands.
the main bands that is typically referenced is a band called My Bloody Valentine.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they were from the early 90s, and they get sort of, well, they were late 80s and early 90s, and they get confused with other bands that are part of different genres. But this band had sort of an interesting history because their sound changed rapidly from about 1987 to 1991 based on production values and philosophies and different members.
And
going
becoming popular?
yeah, they became sort of popular, and they're more popular nowadays. But what I like most about their genre is not necessarily the music, but kind of the philosophies behind it and the things it makes me think about. And that's why I like to write about music, because it sort of gives you like a fodder to write things about and then expand upon.
Like what? Can you give us an example?
Well, basically, when I started writing about it, I was interested in the mastermind behind My Bloody Valentine and his sort of ideas. So he sort of started his the new sound and the sound they're most well known for through listening to punk bands, right?
Okay.
And punk music's very repetitive, right? So he would just keep playing, or he would listen to the guitars playing, and he would hear something that other people didn't, which was each time the guitars hit the chord, it would sound slightly different, right? Depending on how hard or soft you hit it. So then he just kind of expanded on that, and then he created a guitar technique where the guitar would go way more out of tune and in tune based on use of a whammy bar. Right? Those little bars that
Oh,
kinda
okay.
come out and
Yeah,
go like
yeah,
this.
yeah. I know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she used to be a lead singer in a rock band. She's been there.
Believe
done
it or
that.
not.
Yeah.
What was the rock band called?
We were actually, I wouldn't say modern rock, pop rock. It was called
Shoegaze. It was good. I mean, that one song you have, it's a hit for sure.
Sound Poets.
Yeah, Sound
Actually,
Poets.
we did okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was called the Sound.
She
So-
sang the national anthem in Baltimore
Oh, cool.
at a baseball game.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason we called it the Sound Poets is because we thought it was basically poetry to sound. That's really how we saw it.
Yeah.
And that's why we went with that. But the topics that we were all about were very, again, they were spiritual in nature, the songs. They were basically philosophical and existential and that kind of thing, but we tried to create a pop sound around it.
Well, this kind of goes to what you're saying, Ryan, about you start writing about music, and next thing you know, you're talking about any kind of topic,
Exactly.
social or
Goes-
political or
But
aliens.
you know what was so
Oh,
interesting?
Aliens, for sure.
And you know what was so interesting? Because the song that you like was called Only Human.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is I would, when I wrote those songs, I would have something, I would be writing it from with something in mind. And then people would come up to me and tell me how they interpreted the song. It was so different. It was so amazing how that worked. And the other interesting thing was that everybody thought that it was a personal experience I had gone through, and that was not the case. It was I observe, artists observe and kind of relay and interpret that information and filter it through their experience, but it's not necessarily about your experience. It's about your observation, of somebody else's experience.
Now, I've written songs too, and I wrote a song about golfing, but it was based on my personal experience.
And I
Having
bet you that was a
golfed.
very sad song.
There were some sad parts.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I guess. So what do you write about then? I know you follow this band, but what do they write? Like, what are the topics? I know you said they were punk, so what are their topics?
Well, I mean, I like to also write about things I observe through music production.
Okay, so you talk about the music itself, or you talk about life?
Well, it's interesting because I kind of get into just talking about my own experiences too, and like through my writing, I kind of state that this isn't a definitive thing at all. I may not even get to a resolve on what it is because it's vague anyways. And sometimes it's nice when things are a little vague and you don't sort of set like this like end goal, and you just kind of enjoy the journey of writing.
Right.
Because like sometimes you just like start reading and something will pop out to you. And even if
What was the last thing you wrote about?
the last thing I wrote about, what was it? Yeah, it was again like part of this writing about music, and it was just about an early incarnation of the group. But I was kind of like talking about like music production, right? Like,
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
music is made to sound good on television, right? Like there's a lot of trouble and highs in music attacks you, right?
Well, especially these days. They call it,
Especially
there's a name for that.
So it's high in treble?
Well, it's for all the new music is very compressed at
It's
the
very
high
compressed,
end,
very
and it's all
punchy.
meant to catch your ear right off the bat. It's very different. It's like if you looked at the compression, compared to old music from the 70s, which was much less compressed. Like a good example is Nickelback.
Oh, yeah.
They really sound super like at the top of your ear range.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, It's
Yeah.
very
Wow.
shrill, kind of-
I don't even like that sound. It's not pleasing to my ear.
Right.
Well,
But-
Nickelback's an interesting group.
Not that I
because
don't like
they-
them, I just don't like that particular sound. I don't like that particular production.
Well, Chad Kroger's my hero, so please.
Well, like I feel like most of the hate for a group like Nickelback comes about because
I don't hate them.
because it's a style of music that people are like, how is this popular? And they're massive everywhere, in, like Japan and Canada.
Who?
Nickelback.
Nickelback,
They're
yeah.
massive, right?
Yeah, because Chad Kroger's so great.
Well, like it's like I don't like to jump on the bandwagon and hate on somebody
He's
because
being
they're successful.
sarcastic,
Oh, I
right?
really love Chad Kroger.
He's being
No,
sarcastic.
I'm serious.
So that's why you changed the lyrics to I Kissed a Boy. That's who you mean.
I didn't tell you what I changed the lyrics to. I just
That's
told
who
you
he's
that
meaning.
I changed the lyrics. But I wish Chad would grow his hair back.
That's who he means.
Yeah, I just recently found out that.
So
What?
the way you
That
love
what?
My Bloody Valentine is the way you love Chad.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Ryan. All right. We don't have a lot of time left, Ryan.
Okay.
So let's maybe come to some conclusions here about. So are you doing music?
I do music, yes.
Yeah.
You play in a band?
I have played in bands in the past, but the stuff I usually just sort of get out there is my own stuff, which is just ambient music. Really simplistic, drony kind of ambient stuff.
Like, do you play guitar? What's your
I
instrument?
do play guitar, yes.
So do you use all those pedals to get that dream-like
yeah,
sound?
Shoegazing?
I do that, yeah. Yeah, but I've like kind of simplified the approach because I don't have pedals anymore. So I just kind of take things I've previously done and then take like the good sounds in there and then kind of stretch them out and just
Yeah.
turn them into longer pieces.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's like recycling.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, reduce,
Okay.
use, recycle.
Okay. So what are you going to like? What's next on your horizon? You going to write some articles? Because here's what I think. I just got to say this. You're talking about writing. In the past, writers got paid for writing, but now nobody's getting paid for writing anymore
Yeah.
because too many people are writing. Nobody's reading.
Everybody's
Supply and demand curves are like just pushing it towards zero for getting paid for writing. So, in fact, it might go where you have to pay to write. Like, you had to pay to play. If you're a rock band in L.A. back in the 90s, you had to pay to play. That's how Red Hot Chili Peppers got started. And
Did they pay to play?
pretty soon
in a
you're gonna
band, you mean? Like in a
well, they have it here in
club?
Toronto too, where you go play. Maybe go play at the Opera House, but you got to sell 30 tickets. So in other words, you got to cough up $300
gotta be the business behind it.
before you get to play at the Opera House or any of the other clubs downtown Toronto. It's just the way it is, supply and demand, right?
It's true, but next on my horizon is something almost completely different. Because like I also do visual art and I make stencils, and that's the art I was trying to sell before.
Stencils
Yeah,
of
using mylar paper, and they're stencils of actually sort of old school sort of Nintendo characters. Yes, it's a very it's a very
Wow.
interesting niche these days.
I would think there would be a market for that.
There is, although
I
I like
think
doing
there
it
would be.
because.
How about Mario Brothers? Stencils
Possible. Yeah, I mean, people like to see that for sure. I just like kind
or
of
stencils of The Simpsons.
That could work if there was a game. I think there's games for it. I just kind of like
neat.
the nostalgic
Yeah,
value of it because
yeah.
it reminds people of childhood, right? And kind of going back to what we were sort of saying before,
Yes, yes.
of amateur sort of writing or amateur styles or earlier styles. And
Wow.
it reminds people of this past, and then if they get pulled back into that, then maybe they can pull from that time, which is one of like the main creative points in your life. So that's all what it's all about, just getting people to realize they can create.
Nice. That's really interesting. I wish we had some samples.
Yeah, I wish we
I
did.
would love
Me
that.
too.
But Ryan, so how did you like your first experience on the show here?
I enjoyed it a lot. I was a little nervous at first, but that's just comes with the territory sometimes. Once I
Get going,
yeah,
it's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, listen. Thanks for coming on. And,
Thank you for sharing.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank
Do you have a website or a Facebook thing that you want to share with people if they want to get their
Etsy.
hands on some of
Or
those
see some of your work.
stencils?
Yeah.
Well, I think the best site would be I have an Etsy site where I have art. So because I didn't talk about that as much, maybe I could
Sure.
explain that. So
Etsy.
it's etsy.com.
How do you spell that?
ETSY.
What is Etsy?
It's kind of like eBay, but for sort of handcrafted art.
But that. So where do they look for that? Because that's going to be the main site,
It'd
right?
be etsy.com slash shop
Shop. Yeah.
slash cereal games, as in breakfast cereal.
All right.
All one word.
Okay. Okay, Ryan. Thanks for doing this today.
Wow, interesting. Check out Etsy.
It's
Okay.
a good site.
Now, our next video, Sandra, before we come, we're going to come back with Bob Dunn right after this from Ideal Health, but we're going to look at this video. This is, you've heard of all the trouble, the political trouble in Ukraine. Well, apparently they're using lightsabers over there.
What?
Lightsabers from the future. Right? Because after they turned on the Hadron Collider,
Yes.
they got lightsabers. So, but the red was damaged. So let's watch this, and we're going to come back with Bob Dunn right after this. Back here on the show, and we've got Bob Dunn joining us from Ideal Protein. And Bob, you're always doing something with health, right?
I've always had a great interest in trying to resolve some of the issues that we have around chronic illness.
Okay, good.
That's a big thing.
It is.
It's a huge thing.
And it's costing us a small fortune in the medical industry, and we can't afford it. So
Exactly. Well, we were saying
people are
before.
going to have a lot of problems.
Well, and the thing about chronic, sorry, you.
Yeah, hospital administrators.
Well, the thing about
Yeah.
but this is totally avoidable. Like most chronic stuff is avoidable,
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
If we just took responsibility for our health.
Well, and typically you have people like, obesity is our biggest issue. So obesity, diabetes.
Yes.
Essentially just being
Yeah.
overweight, and over 50% of people who have diabetes die of heart disease. So
And die younger too.
Pardon?
And they die younger too, correct? You don't live as long.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, there's a doctor in the west end of the city here I love, but I didn't get his permission to say his name, so I won't. But he speaks 16 different languages in his office, so he deals with a few ethnicities, and some ethnicities have a lot more prevalent issues with weight than we Caucasians do. But he tells them all that he said he talks about waist circumference as another measure of health, and for every bit of extra weight you have around your waist, he said you look at it as just having another organ, and all that organ is doing is spewing out bad chemicals, and if you don't take care of it, you will wind up with a chronic disease or two or three, and it will kill you.
Wow.
So, I mean, I love this guy because it's like bang right between the eyes.
Okay, but the question then, Bob, is for me, how do you know what the right number for your waist is? How do you know? Because you're saying for every extra inch,
I know
correct?
what it is. It should be. You should have ideally.
Well,
Right.
we've been using the BMI index for a long time, which is some
The body mass
mathematical-
index, right?
Yeah.
But I use a machine that's connected to a university in Northern California, so it's just quick through your computer, and it's a body composition analysis.
Right.
So it gives you your percentage body fat,
Yeah.
and your risk factor.
Right. But we know what that is. It's like if you got love handles, you got some of this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Love handles.
No
Do you have
question.
love handles, Sandra?
I don't think so.
Well, we'll
But
have to look later, right?
See, but why did we call those love handles? Because it makes you think if people don't have them, then they don't have the love. And that's not true.
It's a nice way of saying you're fat,
But
right?
The issue is
It's true.
is our diets and too much sugar
Yeah.
and especially added sugars to food. I mean, I've been saying for years that the food industry is out to kill us all.
Yeah. Well, so is the medical industry.
Well, yes, but in a medical industry is trying to do something, but as long as it's pharmaceutical, and
Yes.
and we do it with food.
Yes.
How simple is
Yes.
that,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's changing people's lifestyle habits and making them pay much more
Yes.
attention.
Yes.
But holding their hand through the process, because there's got to be a lot of education as opposed to just saying eat this and don't eat this. Right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and I just thought like those first 3 articles that I threw at you there, it's just they just
Yeah.
in the last week
Yeah.
we're now talking about how much sugar is too much sugar and added sugars and stuff like that, which, we've been, myself and the people I work with have been doing this for years. And then now the medical profession is trying to get Ottawa to come up with some numbers so people can monitor something of how much sugar you should have in your diet and so forth. And Ottawa is basically coming back and saying, "Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're leaving it up to the food industry
Right.
to do this." And they're the same. Now, these are the same group of people that we had discussions about 2-3 years ago about too much salt. So the government was coming up with regulation, then they backed off.
Yeah.
Our wonderful government in Ottawa, and so they backed off on that issue and said allowed the food industry to. Well, they haven't done a thing. And here we go again. So I mean, it's all about the big lobby groups.
Right. So let me just read a couple of these headlines because it's all about sugar and high sugar diet shown a triple risk of dying from heart disease. I didn't know that. I'd like to know what the link is between high sugar and heart disease, but the issue of safe consumption levels of sugar is controversial with industry and regulators. Health Group wants Ottawa to set sugar limits and the waist circumference, and
Research on calories erodes food pyramid theory. Healthy food policies at risk.
so first
So,
of all,
and
what's
these,
that?
These are just all kind of stuff that's out there in the news all the time, but I don't think anybody's really paying attention.
So is it
No,
really
yeah.
sugar? Is that the real main culprit
Sugar's
here?
sugar's
Sugar
a
and
culprit.
fat. I would have thought
Sugar-
sugar and fat because there's a lot of things about fat and salt. Sugar, salt, and fat.
Well, yeah, did you read the book? Salt, Sugar, Fat that
Oh.
Michael Moss put
No.
out, who is a well-known journalist, investigative journalist. It was
Oh, God.
this past spring. It's pretty interesting about
So those
how
are the three
food
co-
industry
Well, there you
builds
go.
the foods
'Cause
to what they call a bliss factor, so you will eat more.
Right. And 'cause
It's
those are
addictive,
the
right?
those are the things that make food taste good.
Well,
And-
okay, so yeah, sugar, salt, and fat, and then to that point, the addictive would be caffeine, right?
Well, there's
Well,
probably a lot
sugar's-
of addictions, but
Yeah,
And the
sugar's,
sugar's in
you
ca-
know what? People are addicted to wheat. They're addicted to
Yeah,
sugar.
okay.
They're addicted to salt.
average Canadian consumes 26 teaspoons of sugar a day.
Yeah.
Now, do you know that 4 carbs, when it's processed in your body, go to glucose equals a teaspoon of sugar.
Say that again. How much?
Carbohydrate.
Four
Yeah.
carbohydrates.
What is what is 4 carbohydrates?
Four-
4 grams, you
of-
mean?
4 grams of carbohydrates processed by your body into glucose is a teaspoon of sugar.
So can you make
So
that real
when you're
for
looking- when
me?
you're-
What's 4
well,
grams?
When you're looking at
Is that an apple?
4 grams, no, of carbs. So like, I mean, were you talking about carbs?
Spaghetti.
Yeah, yeah.
Or bread.
Yeah, but
right?
how much? How much? One slice of bread. How many carbs would one slice of bread? Okay, wow. So how many teaspoons of sugar would one?
Slice of bread is a good example.
Oh my! No way.
Yeah.
Way.
Way.
It's insane. I mean, like if you're looking at a nutrition label, look at the sugars. Now take your carbs, divide your carbs by 4, and that's the sugars that you're putting in your body. So an interesting stat that I came
Take the
across some
carbs-
time ago.
That's the number of teaspoons you're putting in your body. Right?
If you divide 4, yeah. So
Okay.
So well, you get almost that in a Coke. So that's one drink. Not that I go anywhere near any of that stuff myself, but in 1905. Now, mind you, we were working more in the fields and harder labor or something in those days. But the average North American consumed 5 pounds of sugar a year. Want to guess what it is right now?
When was this? What year?
1905.
So that was 5
Sugar,
pounds in 1905.
Potatoes.
How many pounds of sugar do you think we're consuming annually now? Was the question.
Oh, Sorry.
I think you're being beamed by CIA mind control devices, Sandra.
No, I
This
thought
is
you
a
said, can you guess what that sugar was from, like what that
No,
sugar was?
no.
That's what I thought he
Can
said.
you guess how much the sugar intake is in 2013?
Oh
Let's
my
say.
God, I'm just so afraid to.
I'm waiting to be surprised. I don't know.
It's about 200 pounds.
Wow. So that's a
A
40
for how long
whatever
and over
that
I
what
have
period?
no idea how much of a percentage increase it is. Doesn't
4,000%.
matter. I mean, we were healthy in
Yeah.
1905. We're not healthy today. What's our biggest problem? Weight.
Yes.
Obesity. 66% of our population are overweight.
I actually heard too that in the States, and I don't know where Canada stands on this, but 50% of the population in the States are considered predisposed, pre-diabetic. They're already disposed. Over 50% are already disposed, or predisposed, as they say, to diabetes,
Yep.
which I'm sure has a lot to do with their weight. So it's
Definitely their diet.
yes, which is related to their weight too, because a lot of diabetes are overweight, right? A lot of people who have diabetes are overweight.
Almost all of them. Type 2 diabetes.
Yes,
I'm talking about,
yes.
not type 1.
Yes,
Because type 1 is what we used to call juvenile diabetes.
right. Yes,
But,
we're talking type 2. Good point.
I've got a stat here that I brought along. It was 2011 World Diabetes Day. It was a article or a supplement that they do in the Globe every year for Diabetes Month, the Diabetes Association. And they're suggesting that today more than 20 people are diagnosed with diabetes every hour of every day in Canada.
Yeah, I
just,
believe it.
Just think of those numbers.
I believe it.
Do they have
Insane.
any stats on the age range of that? Because my guess is it's getting younger and younger.
It is, because we're getting people in their teens now. With
Yeah.
Yeah.
diabetes. And it's,
Yeah.
so it's interesting because
Wow.
when I'm working with a diet program, I'm working with dieters. I'm also banging on doors, so I'm trying to talk to doctors and so forth. And I send information to a doctor. If somebody has some complications in particular medicines and stuff like that, I want to get the doctor's approval before I put them on a program. Or subject to it maybe being a stronger, something that maybe could be more complicated. I want the doctor involved in monitoring the process. And I'd say 99% of the time the doctor comes back and said, this isn't for you, because the doctor doesn't want to read the information. He doesn't want to learn anything. And he's all considered, and they're trained to be subject to liability issues all the time, because it's all like pharmaceutical. That's what,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what they're taught.
That's
They're
the
taught.
paradigm that they live in. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Well-
And that's why people have to take responsibility for their own health, right?
But I was just reading an article this morning in the paper, yesterday's paper. Gifford Jones, who's an MD, who's he's like, I think he's 90 years old or something now, and he's just written another book, and that's why this thing was out. But he's saying that how things that he's been trying to push, and he is a well-known doctor,
And
all
he's
with UT
facing-
and so
yeah.
forth, and he's saying like there's thousands and thousands of doctors out there that don't pay any attention. So he's fighting against it, and he's on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from the outside, it's I think the people have to recognize the issues
Yeah.
and get more involved themselves.
So if you came to my doctor and wanted to work with my doctor said, okay, no, I don't endorse this. If I said, look, I want you to look at this, I want to take this, are they obligated then?
No,
But can
I
people,
would recommend that you get another opinion.
Okay.
So tell us about Ideal Protein. Bob,
Ideal protein is essentially, and I wrote this down because it's a mouthful. I get tongue twisted sometimes, but it's a low carb, low fat, adequate amount of protein, partial meal replacement, ketogenic diet.
Okay.
Ketogenic.
Ketogenic. Ketosis. Ketosis is basically, it's a medical term for when your body is in a state where it's using your stored fat for energy.
Okay.
Think about
But is that good?
being lost in the desert.
Yeah, but that's
It's not good if you're really
but
thin,
you're
I
burning
guess.
your fat if you're doing that, which
No,
is
but the purpose.
Yeah.
Well, but if you're overweight,
yeah.
the problem with, okay, let's go back to the sugar and carb
Okay, sure.
conversation. Because our pancreas is running like an overheated engine. It's just going all the time. Every time you add sugar or carb through your mouth, you get in the pancreas to produce insulin. You only need a certain amount of insulin to control your blood sugar level.
Right.
The rest of that insulin is stored as fat. And that's this fat around our waist that kind of blows up all over your body eventually if you don't take care of it.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Okay.
So overproduction of insulin. So what you want to do, so ketogenic diet, we put them into ketosis. So that means that we feed them 4 times a day. We make sure they get the adequate amount of protein they need and minerals and vitamins. If they were on a standard 2,200 calorie diet, they only get 1,000 calories because they're using 1,200 calories from their stored fat. So therefore, they're in fat burning mode 24/7.
With this product.
Yep.
Okay, so this product is helping to get rid of that fat, and yet,
It's more of a protocol in what you do and what you don't do.
right. So it's a program that includes this
product.
protein.
Well,
Is it a drink?
Well, no, I get 75 different flavors of. So I have breakfast. I get pastas. I have snacks.
Oh, so it's
I get
actually in the food.
75. Well, it's a partial meal. You're adding this to whole food.
Okay.
So it's a partial meal.
I see.
But what the
Okay.
packages are high biological protein, and they're all coming from organic sources, primarily farms in northern France and in Germany, because we can guarantee that there's no GMO involved in those countries because they're not allowed.
Right, right.
And you can't do it here. But so it's about as clean food as you can get. So we're adding that to like vegetables. You get 4 cups of vegetables a day from an approved list, and they're all low GI, low glycemic index. So, and for people who may not know what glycemic index is, Dr. David Jenkins here in Toronto was the guy that coined that and developed that several years ago, and it's basically the sugar content of food. So, like root vegetables like carrots and stuff like that, carrots and beets, and that have a lot of sugar in them, they're not on this diet.
So what kinds of vegetables are on the diet that are good for low glycemic?
Broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, lots of green stuff.
Okay, okay.
So, and they got a lot of good minerals and vitamins in them
So
as well.
eat like a rabbit.
Well, but you can have, but we also allow people to have their own meal in a day. So it's easy for people to work and take to work with and stuff like that. And at home, they're doing their own meal.
So they can integrate it with their existing lifestyle no matter what, right?
Yeah. So if they're doing 5 to 8 ounces of like lean meats or fish or something like that, unless they're vegetarian, then if they're vegetarian.
Can you do this on a vegetarian?
Yeah. Vegan, no. But vegetarian, yes. So vegetarian I would give it a vegetarian an extra packet.
Now, we were talking about doctors earlier. Is this something you need a prescription for, or can people actually who want to deal with these issues, can they get started on their own without a doctor's
They
permission?
can't get started on their own. They have to go to a clinic. So part of what I do is help set up a clinic. So I go around and try and find somebody who wants to take this on with a business model, and I work with them until they know what they're doing and they can talk the way I'm talking and so forth. And so I spend a lot of time with these clinics so that they've got up to 20, 30, 40 dieters on their roster, and they're working with this. And then I come back and visit them all the time, and I'm available to them 24/7 by phone or email as well.
So who are you really speaking to today? Are you speaking to the end users of the product, or are you trying to reach the people that might consider setting up these clinics so that they can...
All of the above.
Okay.
I mean, we got 66% of our population needs to be paying attention to this. I have cardiologists that have a couple here. One cardiologist out of California, and it's interesting because of the way she put this. But she works with the Ideal Protein Protocol in her office. She says, I tell my patients that the primary purpose of the program is to heal the body and reverse adverse metabolism. If we're successful in doing that, weight loss occurs naturally as a secondary byproduct.
Right.
So, and it's, and we have others. I mean, I have a couple of cardiologists who one particular in the States said this protocol is a safe scientific way to reduce weight, reverse chronic illness with spectacular results. And he can't get this intervention with anything else.
So can you speak a little bit about some of the people you've worked with who have had results, positive results from this? It must be really gratifying for you.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, and when I really get excited, I mean, I've dealt with people that are in their 70s who've had, high blood pressure issues and so forth, and all that stuff disappeared. And, I get this big hug and tears, and thanks for giving me my life back. But I think so we actually work with these people so that this is a sustainable thing.
Right.
We have...
So it's a lifestyle.
Well, it's a lifestyle change, so we're
Yeah.
encouraging the lifestyle changes, and we're sticking with these people when they finish to support these people so that they can sustain this. So they check back in with us. We have videos now that have been done by a doctor, and so every morning somebody gets a video from me or the clinic that's doing. So that if they're working with a particular clinic, that clinic is sending them videos. Every morning they get a 3-minute little YouTube-style video learning something more about nutrition and what they're doing. So they're getting information every day. So it's slowly, I mean, I've had people come, I had a Chinese lady not that long ago, last year or something, and I'm saying tell her that she can't have rice. Well, she says, Bob, look at me. She says, I'm Chinese. Chinese people have to have rice.
It is law, like Canadians skate.
So I said,
Play hockey.
So I said to her, like, just humor me for a week and a half, right? And then she came back to me the following week, and she said, I don't even miss it.
Wow.
But it's how these people they're changing their lifestyle, they're changing their eating habits, and what I really get encouraged with is I've dealt with a lot of young girls lately that I'm not young, they're like in their 20s to 30s, so forth. And these people have changed their whole thinking about food, their attitude about food.
Yeah.
And these people are about to be getting involved in relationship and having children, and those children are never going to have the problem.
Yes,
because
yes.
We've taught
yes.
the right people.
Awesome.
So that's what this is all about.
Okay, so now I just want to ask you, because we're just about out of time, but there have been a lot of diet programs, a lot of strategies for people over the years, for people to deal with weight problems, to deal with some of these dietary issues. What is different and unique about this program that makes it better than anything that's come before?
Well, most of what I've said here on that, the low carb, low fat, there's a typical type of things. Well, they use the Canada Food Guide. Cut your food requirements in half, so you're getting not getting the inadequate amount of protein, you're not getting the minerals and vitamins, and one of the body's first reaction when you're basically starving itself, so you're forcing the body to go after its own stored fat, is a good portion of what it's going after is your muscles. So these people are losing their muscle mass.
Yeah.
So if you get the whole concept of the yo-yo diet stuff that people have, it's because they've lost all their muscle mass.
Yeah.
So that now their body's going after, trying to get that back. They'll never get it all the way back.
Right.
But they're going after that. So now they're putting on more weight than they lost.
Right. And that's what happens.
And they have a diet that's basically the same diet, just except cut in half. We cut a whole bunch of stuff out and teach them why.
Well, I'm interested to know why you would cut rice out, because I've always thought rice was a good thing.
High carb.
Of course, it's high carb.
Right, of course. But it's gluten-free, so I'm just like, okay, everything's about gluten-free.
But this is all about carbs and sugars.
Okay,
Because what we're doing here is we don't want to spike the pancreas to produce insulin.
Okay.
So we want to limit the insulin production. So we don't want we want to give the pancreas a well-needed rest. It's running like an overheated engine, as I said, right?
Yeah, and
so you got to stay away from anything that's going to do that.
Okay.
One question, Kath. One question.
do
Okay.
it.
How long is the program? How long before people see results?
Depends on how much before they see results.
Yes.
A week.
Oh, wow. Okay, and then how long are they generally on? And then how long is the maintenance program?
Depends on how maintenance program is their life.
Okay, so they always can come back for life when you say maintenance.
But you want to have a healthy lifestyle for life.
But I know,
right?
but you say you connect with them.
They don't need to be a part of this program. We're teaching them how to eat, what foods to eat. We encourage people when they're in their maintenance phase to have a cheat day, have a great day to do. But what you do the following day is you do
Get back on.
what you've learned. No, don't get back on the. You don't have to get back on the program. But what you have to do is do a very low carb, low fat day, and a lot of protein, right? So that you're basically resetting that metabolism.
So if someone is in really bad shape, just to give us an idea, if someone who's in a worst case scenario, so they'd start to see results in maybe a week.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna see it. And if people are quite overweight, then usually they have a lot of water retention.
Okay.
Food retention.
Yep.
So I mean, I've seen people lose 11, 12 pounds in a first week.
And it's safe.
Yeah, I mean, well, most of that is
Water.
Is water.
Okay.
But you will lose. Women average 2 to 3 pounds a week. Men 4 to 5.
And before they get to their comfort, their weight management, where they want to be, where their goal is that like a year or how long?
Depends on how much weight they need to lose.
In a bad say
gonna-
somebody is who should be 150 in there.
A lady wants to lose, or she's going to lose 3 pounds a week. How much weight does she want to lose? She wants to lose 30 pounds.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
10 weeks.
Okay. So it's that systematic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not drastic. It's
The science basically, we used to have different science, but today's science basically says 2% of your body weight fat a week
right.
in loss is fine.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's
Okay. It's good to know, so when people watching can just get an idea as to.
Because with women and stuff, it's also changing hormonal stuff.
Yes,
So with people
yes.
with menstrual things that are
Yeah.
that are all over the map, it's bringing them back into normal. Gynecologists love the results they're getting with PCOS, which is a huge issue these days. Polycystic ovarian
Okay.
syndrome.
Yeah. Okay.
And we have some people in the U.S. Are using this in fertility clinics, where they're using this as the first level of protocol in a fertility clinic because it's stabilizing stuff.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I would say that people with PCOS, probably 50% of them have a weight issue.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
So it's just it's basically chronic illnesses and all these things are related to inflammation in the body. This is anti-inflammatory, so it's reversing those procedures. And if you don't have any procedures, learning this stuff early on in life is the best health preventative.
Yes. So you'll
process
never have to
there is.
deal with it
Yeah.
down the line. Wow. Sounds amazing.
And it's food.
Yeah.
It's
There you go.
Wow.
So Bob, if people are out there and they want to, maybe get on the program because they're dealing with some of these issues, or if somebody out there recognizes a business opportunity here, what's the best way to get more information or get in touch with you?
They can contact me by phone, which is 416-788-1553, and that's my cell phone. Or they can email me at, I could use the Ideal Protein. My Ideal Protein email is rdunn@idealprotein.com.
Okay. Is there a website or anything?
Idealprotein.com.
So they can get more info there.
So there's not a lot of science are there, and the
Yeah.
business opportunity stuff's not there. It's more consumer based, but it's got all kinds of a lot of information.
Well, what better way to actually get the info they need than just get in touch with you and just get the conversation started, right?
Yep. And if I'm not convenient to them, I will find somebody that is.
Okay. Awesome.
Perfect.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Okay.
That was quite
Thanks for
an
coming in.
education.
A pleasure.
I want to get on the program, even though I hardly have any love handles at all,
So that's interesting. Why would you want to get on the program?
because there's a little bit there, Sandra, and I just don't want my pancreas to be running.
So I guess,
Overtime.
we'll have to check that after, Hugh.
Oh, yeah, check my pancreas. Okay. All right, we're going to be right back. We got Zach Green and Richard Powell coming on the show from Fatal Pictures. We'll be right back here on Liquid Lunch.
What's the matter, sweetheart? Had another bad day? Now you're waiting for me to ask you about it, but I won't, because you're just going to tell me anyway. Here it comes. 3, 2, 1.
They're expecting me to go in on Saturday. Again. Can you believe that?
Well, they don't appreciate you or your contributions in that branch.
They really don't.
Your contributions? What exactly should they appreciate? Your GED or your half year of community college? You're on time every day, so are my bowel movements. You're a nut on a bolt on the ass end of a useless cog. They should have fired you years ago.
Okay, we're back here on the show, and we've got, we just saw, not a trailer, but a little clip from, what was that movie? It was Familiar, right?
Familiar, that was our previous movie that's still on the festival circuit.
Okay, and that's Zach Green?
Yeah, I'm Zach
talking,
Green, yes.
Who is the producer?
Yes.
Of that film, and also we got Richard Powell here, who's the writer-director of that film as well?
That film as well, yeah.
So you're doing a new movie as well. Are you also the writer-director of that?
I am. That's kind of our rapport. The idea behind Fatal Pictures is I'm the writer-director. Zach helps me produce everything, and that's the way it works right now. Eventually, we might wear different hats. Zach might try his hand at writing, directing. I might try more producing, but that's the arrangement right now. I'm the writer-director, and he helps me get through.
So you guys are like a real team here.
Yeah, Fatal Pictures is our production
Fatal
company.
Pictures. So I'm interested in how you guys actually got together.
That's my first question.
To work together to make films.
Did you guys meet in school?
Are these feature films?
These ones are shorts. These are shorts.
How long are they like?
We've made 3 short films. Each of them are over 20 minutes, which has kind of been interesting, but also a challenge. Short films typically are between 5 and 10 minutes.
Wow.
Those ones have the best odds of getting festival exposure and being reviewed. We've been kind of bucking that trend by making longer shorts, but that allows us to have more substance, more character, and that's kind of translating into great reviews. People are getting these things that they expect to be slight and not very full of anything substantial, but then they get a short film that actually is saying something. So that's kind of helped us, and that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Well, I would think, too, making a longer film like that is a step towards making feature films. And I'm curious, is that your ultimate goal, to make feature films?
Oh, yeah, that's the goal. Air was our last short film, the one that we're trying to get made now on Kickstarter. The goal is that's our last short, and then we're going to go and do what we think we were made for, which is feature films. I think that's why our shorts are so long, because we understand the long-form storytelling, but just because of financial reasons and experience reasons, we've been having to do these shorts and learning along the way, but now I think we're ready. So that's kind of the idea. Let's get to what we think we were made to do, which is the features.
Okay. All right.
So back to how you guys met, because I don't think we even addressed that.
Yes.
School.
We met back in film school here in Toronto. I was in a post-production class, which is editing, and Richard was in the film and TV production class. And all his term students pitched a project to the faculty. Richard's got picked up. I happen to be the editor on that movie. My foundation in the industry is editing. And yeah, that's how I met Richard. I ended up editing a short film that he got produced at film school.
So how does that lead to a discussion about becoming partners and having Fatal Pictures and coming up with 2 short films?
It's a great question. So as I was cutting The Offer, the student film was called The Offer, me and Richard got talking as we're in the editing room. We just built a really great rapport there. We just both had a lot of goals and ambitions and
same philosophies.
Yeah, and so we started working together on that. And a couple years down the road, in 2007, we started a production company and released our first movie entitled Consumption in 2008. That is about a true story about a cannibal living in Germany.
I know some people that want
a cannibal,
to know more
like
about
a
that
human.
movie.
Yes,
it's a true story, based on a true story.
Yes,
right?
it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
What Consumption
Wow.
was basically, I'd heard this story out of Germany about a man putting an ad in the paper looking for somebody willing to be killed and eaten. Somebody answered the ad, was killed and eaten.
That's illegal, isn't it?
It's illegal, but it's funny. The guy who did it, because it was a consensual act, is actually out of jail already, walking around a free man. So what we did is we took kind of the idea of what would inspire these two people to come into this kind of weird pact, and so that's what Consumption's about. It's about a man and a woman who come together, and even though it's a horror movie, there's no malicious violence. It's actually this thing that it's horrific for the audience because we're watching this thing that we perceive as a tragedy, but for the characters in the film, this is what they want. So it's kind of this ambiguous thing. You don't know how to
Oh
feel
my
when you're watching
God.
the movie.
That's worse than the Super Bowl commercial.
Which we should watch again before the show's over.
Oh my God, that is just fascinating. So you guys went to the actually psychological aspect of all
Very
of
much
that.
so, yeah. It's a horror film. It's a 30-minute horror short, and there's only actually on-screen violence, blood, and gore. It's only 2 minutes out of the 30 minutes. The other 28 minutes is just character moments. It's actually set up as a blind date between a man and a woman, and the audience is unaware that this pact has been made. So you just think you're watching an awkward blind date, and then it kind of turns into this, oh, these people had this plan, and it kind of unfolds it before you.
Okay, I just have to know because I have not even heard of this. I'm assuming the man killed the woman? It's the woman
There
who...
was actually 2 men in the real case.
Okay, how did the man kill the man?
I believe he castrated him, and then slit his throat, and then just started, I guess, breaking him down into bite-sized pieces and started eating.
I actually heard that the professor cut the other gentleman's penis off. And,
Castrated him, yeah.
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, wait, but no, did you have... Was he knocked out before you did that? Was he knocked out? Like, did they give him sleeping pills or
And weren't they
something?
eating
They
his-
were drinking wine, apparently, but I don't believe there was any anesthetic involved.
Oh,
because
my
I think
God.
part of the thing, because there was a sexual element between these two.
Ya
as well.
think?
And I think there might have been some sadomasochistic things going on.
Yeah,
where
ya
it was kind of
think?
part of the experience. Yeah. So.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So.
Wow,
And
okay.
that's that to me. When I heard of that story, I'm like, this is compelling. I need to write about this. So I just.
Okay, that's when
kinda
you
took-
know you're a writer, producer person, if you find this compelling.
True crime. Well, it makes you ask questions, and if you could make a film that asks those questions and gives the audience something to think about, that's a worthwhile
Okay,
attempt.
the questions I ask are like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, actually, I want to ask because that was the first movie, right?
That was
That's a
Consumption.
horror movie.
Yeah.
Familiar is a horror movie?
Familiar is a horror film as well, but it kind of follows the idea with Consumption, where these things are called horror films, but they're all so much more about real issues. They're about real characters and the dilemmas they faced. Familiar is about a man who, I guess the best way to describe it, he goes through this wicked midlife crisis where he wants out of his marriage. He doesn't want to be around his family anymore. He just wants to basically buy a pickup truck and leave. Mm-hmm. And you find this out through this recurring inner monologue in his mind throughout the course of the film. And at about halfway through the film, he kind of gets trapped where he has this plan to escape and he can't. And the monologue starts telling him to hurt his family. And he goes along with that first, but then he starts questioning, what is this monologue telling me to do? What is this monologue in my head? Yeah. And he starts to, I guess, not listen to it anymore. And then because of that, all of these weird body horror things start happening where his inner monologue becomes disconnected from his mind, and it kind of starts to grow into this weird cancerous tumor on his body. And the film sort of ends with this bloody thing where he's actually cutting himself open and pulling his inner demon out. And it's this thing where he has to confront his inner demon to sort of save his family. And it's all a metaphor for like the midlife crisis.
They're very
basically.
psychological movies. You might need to pay attention.
Yeah.
Did you guys study like Freud or Jung or something?
I've always been interested in like psychology, but I mean, these things are just more based in looking at real life issues and kind of looking at them from a different angle, saying, you know, what is a midlife crisis? What could bring that on?
Yeah.
What is this thing that tells you you're not happy? What is the id, right? What is
Yes,
that? And I'm like, what
yes.
if it was this creature living inside of you that you could ignore? What would happen then, right? So
who comes up with these ideas? Who's going to take responsibility
right,
for that?
I'm the writer right now. That's
So that means
coming out of
okay.
here.
So because sometimes writer means wow,
Yeah.
Zach,
wow.
what's with this guy?
I don't know.
And you guys
he
have a
scares
lot
me.
in common, Zach. You're like, okay, we have a lot in common.
I like puppies and nice things.
Yeah.
So, no, okay.
Well, you know what? And it's so funny. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. You were taking it over in the beginning. No, because right before you came on, when you said I'm a writer producer, I thought the first thing I said was, "You seem too happy.
Yeah.
You seem too nice." And oh my God, was
I am though.
He gets it all out
For
in
the
the
most
movie.
part.
I guess.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Okay, go.
So is Air going to be also? That's the next one.
Air's the
you're working
next
on
one,
now. Is it also going to be a horror or?
it's like the other ones. It's a hybrid of drama and horror. And what Air deals with is child abuse, and it's the darkest thing I've ever written. It's one of the, I always tell everybody, it's actually a short film that I'm scared to make because I don't know how people are going to react to it, because it deals with very taboo issues. Basically, the elevator pitch for Air is everybody says that people who abuse children are monsters. So what if they actually were? And that's kind of like what the movie explores. It's about this father-son road trip to hell, basically. A father and son go to do this thing that I don't want to give away because that would kind of spoil the film. But throughout the course of this short film, this man who has these very dark urges discovers something very horrific about himself, and he has to confront this darkness and these weird desires, or risk being destroyed and risk his son's life being taken away. And
Does love prevail here, Richard?
It's something that starts very dark, but it pulls you out into some hopeful place. Wow. There is redemption because this character, he's a victim himself, and that's why the film is called Air. There are certain abuses that are inherited because of things that have happened to you.
Air as in H-E-I-R.
That's right.
Okay.
So that's the concept of the film is what are these things that are handed down to us and we hand down to others? How does this cycle of abuse go on, and can it be stopped? Do you have the power to stop it? And that's sort of what Air explores.
Wow, very intelligent script.
But there's also great special effects in it. It's a monster movie, so it's kind of a mixture of everything. There's something to make you think. It's something to torture the mind and to make your stomach kind of feel a little twisted up as well. So
I would just hate to have a conversation with you. You probably I'd watch everything I say because it could potentially be the next.
Sandra,
shut up.
You're having a conversation with him right
well,
now.
This, I know.
Right now.
Okay.
Okay. Is it fully written at this point?
Yep, the script is written. It's been done for quite a while now, actually, and it was written long before I even knew I wanted to make it. I had the idea, and our idea was let's just try to do our feature film. But I feel so strongly about the short. I know it's the best thing I've ever written that I have to make it. I want this to be the short film that we go out on before we try features.
So when you
go, Sandra.
Okay, when you write something like this, how first of all, how many pages would make a 20-minute film, and how long does it take you? Because it sounds to me like it's some sort of stream of consciousness thing that it's just like la 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 la, and it's done in a day.
They could be done that way, stream of consciousness, but the things, because they're a little bit more complex. They deal with psychology, character development. You want to have full swings of character arc. So I'm actually very meticulously plotted. I really think about trying to convey message throughout different points of the film, and I'm big on subtext. I like for all of my films to have hidden meanings. So it does take me a little while to write them.
Oh wow, because you're really writing a play or a story within a story within a story kind of thing. So there's like 5 stories in one.
It's like one of those like Russian dolls where you pull the lid off and it just keeps going down, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, even the tagline for Air is a touching tale of father and son. Now, that's kind of a play on words because it's touching because there's redemptive moments, but it's also called a touching tale for another reason that's explored in the film, right? So I'm always looking for a subtext, a hidden meaning behind everything.
So it sounds. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to talk now. Okay.
Sure, sure.
I'm interested. So the script's written, but where is the production, Zach, on the movie? And I want to get into a little bit because you're using what are you using to Kickstarter to fund it, which is I think that's new since the last time you guys were here.
Yep.
Right. I don't know if you funded your films with Kickstarter before. I'm interested in that whole process.
So Indiegogo was for Canadians, and then Kickstarter just recently opened their doors for Canadians to use. So we decided let's move our campaign to Kickstarter because it's got a bigger following and more people know around the world about Kickstarter than they do Indiegogo. So right now, I encourage everyone to go check out Air on Kickstarter right now. You can search for the film by typing in Fatal Pictures Air, Fatal Pictures, just Air itself, H-E-I-R. There's a lot of great content on the campaign. Some of a lot of our crew, our cinematographer, our special effects, Robert Nolan, who's a great actor here from Toronto. We got Bill Oberst Jr., the hardest working man in horror. He's actually an Emmy winner himself, and he really liked the script a lot, which is great. He's going to be one of the leads as well as Robert Nolan. And yeah, there's just a lot of great content, storyboards. I definitely encourage everyone to go to Kickstarter.com and search for the film Air by Fatal Pictures.
Okay. So no shooting's been done yet?
No, we've shot some promotional stuff, me and Richard and Robert and Bill, just talking about the script, telling you why you should contribute. There's also fabulous, original, great perks for everyone who contributes any increment of money. There's a great perk for you. We just added a bunch of incredible new filmmaker-friendly perks that I think are very original, like props from our previous movies. There's like a phone call with Robert Nolan. Richard can actually tell you. I know there's a lot.
Yeah,
of
well, I
other-
mean, some of the coolest perks we think would help other filmmakers who are in our situation or just starting out. Maybe you don't know how to get a film started off the ground. So we have a perk called Film School, where you get to come to us during a meeting of pre-production. You get to come to a day on set.
wow.
You get to come to a post-production session, and then you get to come to the festival premiere of the film. So it's this comprehensive look at the entire making of a film. We have another perk where the next short film, if I was to do one, it's already written. It's called Vessel. We're actually letting that go, the full rights to it. So if somebody is a director or a producer who doesn't have material and they like what we do, we actually have a script that they could, in return for supporting our film, they can get the full rights to make it themselves. And then things like acting lessons with Robert Nolan and all these other perks that we think will help other filmmakers, not just people getting posters and t-shirts, which is cool, but we feel like most people that are aware of Kickstarter are artists themselves, filmmakers, musicians.
Yeah.
That's how we became aware of it, right? So we feel like if those are the people who are on those sites, let's try to do something that appeals to them as well. So
Now, this is going to be the last short film,
This
right?
is the last.
And then you're going to go for the features.
Yep.
And I'm just curious because you guys are Canadian, right? What is it like to be a Canadian filmmaker? We joke that, that's...
So first step, they go from Indiegogo to Kickstarter.
Well, that's... I've heard the karmic reward for killing a fly is to be reincarnated as a Canadian filmmaker. But I'm just curious, like, how do you get when you make your feature film, how do you get it distributed? Like, how are you guys, are you optimistic about that? Are you guys feel confident that you're good enough to get the attention of the big film distribution companies or people in Hollywood or whatever it takes?
I think that part of the process of making the short films has been about getting the confidence to feel like we are ready. And I feel I feel like we are there now. I feel we don't need to do air, I think, to get our next film made. I think if we went out there and we started hitting the streets and talking to our connections, we could get it made. But I feel that leaving on this note will make us that much better. And it's already made me a much better filmmaker just in the planning stages and then being forced to go through Kickstarter and learning about marketing yourselves and figuring out how to target people with specifics like what would make our project appealing to them. All of these things that we weren't aware of before. So it's kind of sharpened us and made us better. And in terms of confidence in getting our films made, I think we have the content, and I think if we line up with the right people, I think it's going to happen. And the beauty is you don't need to have the giant studios pay attention to you anymore to get a film made. I mean, I kind of want our first film to be a small film. I don't want to have a giant... I want something that is going to come out under the radar, and then when people see it, they'll be surprised. And that's kind of our goal with the next one. We want to do it very low budget, micro budget even, and just surprise people. And
The one after Air? Or Air?
the feature after Air, yeah.
So I'm seeing a pattern here, these like psychological things. Is that your niche? Is that where you think you're going to go with your feature films? Are you going to be like a sci-fi thriller kind of?
I'm not sure.
Like a CSI or CSI or something, like, those psychological, like it seems to me that, but you have a unique spin. So it seems to me like even within the short that you have some sort of niche already. It's very, very specific what you're doing.
We haven't really named it. We haven't named it, but the specific thing I would call it is kind of, and I don't know if this sounds like too self-congratulatory, but we're trying to elevate horror films. We're trying to instill it with some of the things that make dramatic filmmaking so acclaimed, which is the characters, the actual thinking about a plot, thinking about subtext, thinking about themes. We're not interested in doing slasher films. We're not interested in doing zombie movies. We want to talk about things.
I think from a psychological perspective, Richard, I think what you're doing is just revealing the dark side of
humans,
and we all have it.
Certainly, yeah.
Right, and so and don't be afraid to see it. That's really what I see.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the three films that Worm, Familiar and Air. Those are our, so Consumption was our first short, and then we did one called Worm, and then we did Familiar, and now we want to do Air. The last 3 films, including Air, they kind of constitute this thing we're calling the box cutter trilogy. And the idea is there's a box cutter in each film, but also the concept of each film is kind of like a box cutter cutting through a box and allowing you to get at what's inside. These films are kind of cutting to the core of these characters and giving you a glimpse of what's inside. So you get past the surface, the facade. And that's what each of these films is about, is breaking the facade and looking at what's really inside. So,
Which helps us to look at ourselves
Sure.
when we watch them.
well, exactly. There was the film we made, Worm, which is about a psychotic high school teacher who basically is planning on, instead of the typical school shooting is a student goes in and does it. In our film, it's actually the teacher who was thinking about doing this. When other teachers saw that movie and other people watched that movie, we had a lot of responses like, wow, I've had similar thoughts where I'm so angry, I can't handle it, I'm going to snap.
Wow.
So it's really weird. I'm writing these characters that I think are like, they're very damaged and very dangerous people. And people have been responding saying, I see a lot of myself in that.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. With these 4 films, once this one is done, it's like if you package them up in a DVD, you've got a feature length.
Yeah.
You've even got a bonus
true.
film,
Yeah.
right? And you've got a theme that ties them all together,
Exactly.
which is maybe a, I don't know
It's
if,
a great way
if
to-
you're offering that as a perk to fund the
That is a
new
perk.
film, but
You can buy the Box Cutter Trilogy on
you go.
Kickstarter.
a box cutter set.
That's right.
Wow.
Okay. Well, great to have you guys on.
Oh,
Now,
our
we've
pleasure.
we've got a little video right about Air. What can you just tell us?
Sure,
what
yeah.
this is all about?
Yeah, that's myself and Richard just discussing Air, why you should contribute to it. We're just talking about the film, and
Yeah, it's about 2 minutes. We talk about our history. We talk about what the films mean and just why we think it's an important film and why you should help out.
Okay, and if people want to contribute, they can go.
you go to Kickstarter.com and you just search for the movie Air, H-E-I-R, or you can just search for Fatal Pictures. I believe I've tried many different things, and so I know what will.
Comes
I
up.
know, I know what will find it. Also, you can check our company out and our movies on fatalpictures.com and on Twitter at Fatal Pictures. And if anyone wants to see Familiar, what we were discussing a little bit ago, you can watch the entire movie on fearnet.com. They have the rights for Familiar for 3 years, and they're going to be putting it on their. FearNet has a television channel. They have an on-demand and fearnet.com across the states. So unfortunately, it's not in Canada, but you can always go to fearnet.com in Canada and watch it through the website.
On the internet.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
FEARNET.com.
Okay. So
Just like it sounds, Sandra.
well, you know what? Air could be A-I-R.
Yes.
Wait a second.
It's true.
Well, it could be H-A-I-R. It could be A-I-R. Or it could be H-E-I-R.
Okay, let's really. Okay, we know how to spell it, right?
Yeah.
H-E-I-R.
Okay, wait a second. I have one more question to ask.
Okay, go.
Okay. You seem so focused and so on target, and what I really think you are going to accomplish whatever it is
Thank
you
you.
set out to
Thank
do.
you.
I think I think you will have no issue with that, as long as you stay humble because you're Canadian. But
Check.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so I want to ask you, what down the line, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself, you guys?
Hopefully have produced 5 or 6 films and just
Does it mean something to you to get an Oscar? Does that mean something to you?
I mean, we would have to do a lot of work. We'd have to go produce films in America. I mean, I guess it
is gratification that
Yeah.
you're doing something right. Clearly, if people are going to award you with an award that
the concept
prestigious.
of awards is great. Like, we've won awards for our films, and it's always great. But honestly, the longer we've been doing this, we're really realizing the thing that we enjoy the most is the process. If we're able to sustain ourselves doing this, that's great. That's all we want, because we're not. The thing that I really realized is it's not about being the most popular or the most award-winning. It's just every filmmaker has a unique voice, and if you give that unique voice to the world, you're valuable, you're contributing. If you're trying to sound like somebody else just to win an award, it's kind of empty. So
Wow.
if we do what we do and people like it, then that's great. But that's what we have to offer.
Yeah, as
so.
long as the world gets to see our movies, that they have good distribution,
Mm-hmm.
like anyone can just watch our movie pretty much at any time, then I think we've done what we want to do.
Yeah.
The awards are just
amazing.
bonuses if
Yeah,
they
for
even
sure.
come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, guys, best of luck with this.
Thank you
Thanks
very
very
much.
much,
Thank you
guys.
so
Thank you
much.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Good
Good luck
luck.
with the campaign,
Thank you.
and we look forward to the movie. I think I saw Familiar, and it was awesome. And yeah, Robert Nolan's great.
He's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, Robert Nolan's a star. He's actually our star in Worm and Familiar, and he's also one of our leads in Air, along with Bill Oberst Jr.
Great. Okay, so here's the
You
clip.
guys work so amazing together.
Thank you so much. Thank
Okay,
you.
I know.
Now we're going to come back after this with our next guest. So we're going to be talking. These are all Americans living in Canada, and how our government is selling them and other Canadians down the river. So we'll be right back.
Maybe there's a film in that.
Fatal Pictures is myself, Richard Powell, and my producing partner, Zach Green. It started with Consumption 2008. After that, we did Worm and Familiar, and it's all leading towards our feature film debut. But before that, we have this one last short. Air, to me, it's a story that scares me, and I feel like that's a reason to tackle it. After I wrote it, I felt scared to give it to people because it deals with such sensitive subject matter. I feel it will be the strongest, the leanest, the tightest, the most powerful and successful short film I've ever done.
We have two great critically acclaimed actors, Robert Nolan, Bill Oberst Jr., who are both very well known in the horror community.
This project is one that we have been thinking about doing for a while, and we decided why not try Kickstarter to be the perfect avenue to try to get this kind of film made. So we feel like we have a unique range of perks that go outside of the typical fare. We're putting up rights to an unproduced short film screenplay from Fatal Pictures, acting lessons with Robert Nolan. We're going to be putting up props from previous films, from Worm. We have Jeffrey Dodd's Briefcase of Horrors. From Familiar, we have the Leg Parasite. That's going to be put up for, up as a perk. A box set of all of our short films.
Bill Oberst is going to be offering a piece of wardrobe. Robert Nolan will also offer up a piece of his wardrobe in the film. A personal call with Bill Oberst Jr.
When you look on the page, you have the poster for Air. We're actually having the artist, David Irvin, do you a painting. When the film goes out to the festival circuit, and we're going to be pushing it like crazy, if it's playing in a town near you, we're going to get you our tickets. You're going to get to go and represent the film on behalf of us. And I feel like based on our past track record, you can see that we push our films, we care about them, we put all of our blood, sweat, and tears into it. Everything is done with as much passion as possible. We kill ourselves to make our films, and this will be no different. The only difference is this film doesn't happen without you. So this is your chance to do something that I promise is going to be special, and it's going to be worth your time, and it's going to be worth your contribution.
We have such a great cast and crew.
We've definitely shown what we can do with these movies. They've gone on to win awards and have critical acclaim, which we're very thrilled about. And we're hoping for nothing less with Air.
We're very excited and just honored to have everybody on board willing to help us and work with us. Please help us create this film and produce it, because we couldn't do it without you.
Okay, and we're back here on the show, and we're hitting the home stretch here, Sandra.
We are.
You know, I like this part of the show. It's the part where we can relax and just enjoy our guests.
I don't know. I think this topic's going to be pretty revving up.
Yeah, it is. So let's get right down
Okay,
to it, because actually I'm going to introduce it. As you suggested, Peter, a friend of mine called me the other day, and he was so upset. He phoned me up in the morning, and he said, Hugh, can you believe what the government's done, the federal government? They've just tabled some legislation that's going to basically sell out Canadians who are dual citizens, as with American dual citizenship, sell them out to the IRS in terms of, and I'm not sure what the implications are, but my friend was very upset, and you guys are all dual citizens one way or another, or something. I don't know. You guys can explain it. You're an accidental American citizen.
I was born in the States, and I'm also Canadian from birth.
Okay.
But I lived in the States as a child because my father is Canadian.
Okay.
And he registered my birth abroad as a Canadian. So that means I'm a Canadian from birth, and I'm also a U.S. citizen from
An
birth.
accidental American citizen.
Kind of. I mean, most people that consider themselves accidental are people that were born in a hospital and then came back as an infant. I did live there till I was a 5-year-old.
It's just funny. I have a friend whose parents were in the States when he was about to get born, and the mother went into labor, and the father hit the gas pedal
and ran across
to
the
get
border
back into Canada before he was born.
Boy, that guy has a lot to thank his parents for.
Wow. So what do you mean by that? Is it because I would think it'd be a good thing to be a dual.
Yeah, but see, we're going to get into that, because now these guys have to pay or liable to pay the IRS tax, and we're going to get into that. So we got Peter Dunn also joining us here at the table.
Hi, Peter.
And Trish Moon, who you guys are dual citizens, but you're Canadians by choice, right? Is that it? Or
Well, Peter has a different point of view on that. I was a dual citizen, and I enjoyed being a dual citizen. I exercised the rights of both countries. But when we became aware of the fact that there was this thing preceding FATCA called, they were enforcing this thing against FBAR, which is a form you're supposed to file if you have a foreign bank account.
as an American?
As an American. Well, of course, none of us knew anything about that, and we started hearing the horror stories about people who had joined this program. It was a criminal program that's for criminals. So we were trying to find a way that we would not have to do that, and, you know, I met Peter online and a number of other people, and we figured out, and I just renounced my American citizenship to escape the whole thing, because I just thought, this is nuts.
So you renounced your American
I
citizenship.
did.
Okay,
I did.
so we're going to find out what these things, FUBAR and or FBAR.
It should be called FUBAR. That's what we call it.
I don't even know what that means, Gwen.
Right, I
You'll
know
have
it
to
all.
explain that to me maybe after the show.
Okay.
But Peter, maybe do you want to just tell us your story a little bit?
In 2011, I relinquished my United States citizenship by becoming a Canadian citizen.
Okay.
I did so in order to protect my wife from the consequences of U.S. citizenship-based taxation. And of course, all the reporting requirements, I was getting really tired of filing my taxes every year in the United States. And the only way to get free is to simply not be a U.S. citizen anymore.
Right.
So at about that time, we started a website called the Isaac Brock Society in order to help other Canadians and people around the world, for that matter, with the issues that they had with U.S. Citizenship-based taxation and all the reporting requirements like FBAR, which comes with 50% fines per year of your financial accounts that you have abroad. And that sort of thing. And so we've been trying to help people defend themselves or protect themselves from this incursion of the United States around the world upon citizens or people they allege are citizens.
Right. Okay. So you've been doing this for a couple of years now, and but now there's some new legislation has been tabled in Ottawa, and can you guys kind of educate all of us about what the implications of that are for Canadians and for you guys?
It basically means that the banks have to search their records to see who might be U.S. citizens if your account's over 50,000, or all your accounts are above 50,000, and if it's higher, then they actually have to search physical records that they may have on file, and that's for existing accounts. But for new accounts, you will now have, no matter who you are, you go into the bank, you open a new account, you will have to tell them that you're not an American, otherwise they will start giving your account information to the IRS.
So you're telling me that I'm a Canadian citizen.
Yep.
If I open up a bank account,
You have to self-certify that you're not an American
They
citizen.
may give you a U.S. tax form to do that. If you're an American citizen and you're getting money from some source, they give you a W-9. If you're a Canadian or a foreigner, then they'll give you a W-8-BEN, which tells the bank that they don't have to withhold any taxes because you're not a U.S. person.
so if you're a Canadian or a foreigner, so if you're Canadian or non-U.S. is really what you're saying.
Correct.
Because this only applies to people who are Canadian/U.S.
That's right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so if I don't tell them that because I don't know that I need to tell them that, what happens?
They'll ask you.
They'll ask you.
From now on, starting, I'm not exactly sure, but July 1st
July
is the
1st.
effective date of the government's agreement with the United States. Everybody who opens up a new account will have to self-certify that they're not a U.S. person.
So it's up to you. It's like an opting in thing where you have to give.
But even the fact we
But
have to
they're all-
answer
they're-
these
you
questions.
They're assuming. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're actually assuming something. It's up to you to say no.
Correct.
I'm not that.
It's
And also,
outrageous.
the other
It's
assumption is
absolute-
that people who of U.S. origin are criminals,
That
just
you're-
That's the
because we
others.
live somewhere else and have our bank account somewhere else other than the U.S.
So are you still You still dual?
I'm
You have
still a
not
dual.
given. Okay. Are you considering?
I do consider it, but I mean, there's all these tax implications that I'm supposed to file 5 years of back taxes, and I have to file.
But if you just
3 years of-
relinquish your U.S., would that all go away?
I could do. It won't all go away. No, because I can renounce, and I'm only renouncing my citizenship, but according to the IRS, I'm still considered a taxable person.
That's right.
Whether or
Why?
not I renounce.
Well, the thing
Because
is,
you're not relieved of your past
your tax requirements.
the thing is, for a lot of Canadians, they've never been in the U.S. tax system, so it's not easy for them to simply go to a consulate and say, I renounce my citizenship, because now the IRS will receive their name on a list, and the IRS may then contact them and say, well, you renounce your citizenship, now you have to file a form called 8854, which comes with a $10,000 fine for failure to file. And what a lot of these Canadians are afraid that will happen is if they renounce their citizenship, the next time they try to go down to the United States on a vacation or something, or to go shopping,
Repercussion.
which I think is a pretty frivolous thing to go down to the States for now, then they're afraid that the information that they haven't filed these forms will then be passed on to the border guards, and they'll be detained, possibly arrested.
Well, and as well, there are plans to share that information from the IRS with Homeland Security and the Border Patrol people. So you're not going to be able to get out of their grip.
Okay, so let me just understand one thing. I always thought that if you were a dual citizen and you were living in Canada for 10 or 15 years and working in Canada, that you didn't have to pay U.S. taxes anyways because your money was being made in Canada.
That makes sense because every other country in the world bases their taxation on residence, as opposed to the United States, which bases their taxation upon citizenship.
And residence.
Yes, both.
So if you live
But citizenship outweighs residence.
Right, according to them. They consider anybody who is a U.S. person, and it doesn't have to be a citizen, it could be a former green card holder, or somebody who's naturalized as a U.S. person who came to the U.S. and then left, went back to another country. Those people are taxable because of their U.S. personhood.
How do you base that tax on what?
Okay, the issue is not so much that you're taxable. Most Canadians are not going to owe the tax.
Right.
The problem is with the reporting filings, because the FATCA form itself requires you to list your assets, a lot of your assets, and they can change that at their will. What's included, what's not included. If you're someone like Gwen, if she sells her house, she would have to pay the U.S., you could split it with your husband, but any gain, she gets a $250,000 exemption. Anything over that, she has to pay tax on her personal property.
Even though you lived here.
Correct.
And the house is here in Toronto.
But
so she's got to pay tax to the IRS for
That's
that
right.
Canadian
But
house.
in terms of your income and so on, most people won't owe tax.
But
on
still,
that.
that's bad enough right there.
Yeah, but you also have to file every year,
Yeah,
and
they
the
expect you
forms
to
are
file.
complicated. Our TFSA counts as a trust, a foreign trust with them. So again, there's another form, and failure to file the form is $10,000, and if you make a mistake, the accuracy penalty is anywhere from 20 to 40%. So most people feel the need to go to an accountant or a tax lawyer, and that costs a lot of money. So it's definitely going to affect people and Canada in a very negative way, because they'll be taking money out of Canada.
So why would the Canadian government allow this?
Good question. Now, here's what I heard from my friend who was so upset about this. He said that it was payback for getting the pipeline through, the Keystone Pipeline or one of the big
That is what
pipelines.
I thought. I was thinking, I read an article about that last night, and, some people dispute that.
Of course.
I think there's something to it, maybe. But, the United States has been waffling about the pipeline for a long time. And this other thing is, I don't know. I can't say for sure if that's the reason.
Yeah.
But it's not out of...
Has it been approved? I don't even know if that pipeline's been approved
Possibly.
yet.
It hasn't been approved.
But we could watch to see if that comes through in the next few weeks
Yeah.
and speculate if maybe this was why.
Yeah.
The obvious reason why the government agreed to hand over the banking information of Canadian citizens is that the United States was threatening economic sanctions against any bank in the world which failed to join their FATCA program. So, in other words, if you were getting transfer payments from the United States on assets that you sold there, they would then withhold 30% of that transfer payment.
Mm-hmm.
So, Canadians are deeply invested in the United States in their personal portfolios. The banks have huge investments. The TD Bank is all over the United States now.
Mm-hmm.
So the United States has a lot of leverage that it can use, financial leverage in the form of extortion in order to get this banking information.
The banks have been clamoring for the government to sign this deal because otherwise they themselves would have to deal directly with the IRS.
And they would break our privacy laws by giving that information. So the government chose the banks over us, is what it amounts to.
And they break the Charter of Rights by asking for the information in the first place. Because
So can you guys go after them on that ground?
We're waiting.
You're thinking about that.
There's plans to make a class action suit the first time this happens.
But lawyers cost money, so at this point...
You guys need to go to Kickstarter.
Yeah,
I just learned about Kickstarter.
That's actually a good idea.
Tell them, because I think actually, if a lot of you guys are affected, Kickstarter's a website to start.
It's a fundraising.
Yeah, it's a group fundraiser.
Yeah, group fundraising. It's the new way that people are. The last guys that were here are crowdfunding.
Oh, I see.
And they're using this to fund their movie, and a lot of people are using it.
A lot of people are using it.
And you guys got a lot of people, right? There's over a
there's
million.
Over a million.
Our
Plus
website's...
families,
Yeah.
Our website is getting 10,000 hits a day since the announcement.
Yeah.
And what is the website?
It's isaacbrocksociety.ca.
.ca. Okay. And let's talk about that a little bit. What is the Isaac Brock Society? We know who Isaac Brock is.
Well, Isaac Brock Society is just simply a website where people come and they get information which will help them to protect themselves from what the United States is doing. And we've been doing some organizing, some protests. We had a protest in Toronto. We had a protest at the Metro Convention Center, and we were told of Toronto, and we were told that we had to stand 18 inches from the curb.
Yes, that's normal. Don't take it personally. They do that with everybody.
And we've also had in Ottawa, we had protests in Ottawa on the day that they came back to the Parliament.
And people are writing their MPs all over the place, and they're doing everything they can to try to get the government to wake up and realize what they're doing to us.
You know who might be a good person to contact would be Paul Hellyer. Would he be? Because he's all about monetary reform, and he was a former Minister of Defense.
And aliens. So I don't know how the aliens figure. I know you guys are aliens, right?
Yeah. Well, they aren't.
Not that kind of alien.
I'm only half alien.
Well, no, but he might be somebody. I know he would be. I mean, he would definitely respond. He might be because he's all about monetary reform, and he was former Canadian Minister of Defense, so he does have some.
He knows who Isaac Brock is.
I know who Paul Hellyer is. Yeah.
You do.
So he might be somebody worth connecting with. Before we go any further, can you just say what FATCA is and FBAR? FBAR.
Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act is
Okay.
FATCA.
Okay.
And FBAR is the Foreign Bank Account Report.
Okay. Thank you. Now that makes sense to me.
And what does FUBAR mean?
I'll tell you after the show.
Well, that's obvious.
and you guys are becoming Foo Fighters.
Yes,
That's
we are.
right. Oh,
Foo Fighters.
cool.
There's
Which is good news for Paul Hellyer because those UFOs need to be dealt with.
See how it's all connected? Maybe it's really the aliens that are running the whole thing. Anyways.
But also on Isaac Brock, we have a series of sessions that we're holding around the country, and it's to do with.
Oh, you're going around the country to do this?
Well, we have an associate who's doing that.
Okay,
who was
okay.
on the
It's
show
amazing.
Yesterday. Yeah, and anyway, the sessions are to do with how to deal with your problem of being a U.S. person.
Are there ways around this?
Well, there's no good way around any of it. There's this way around it, which has a problem, and this way around it that has a problem.
Yeah, because you would think by the time they come out of this, by the time they present this and actually go public with this, that they'd have every angle covered, right?
Well,
government.
It's really not about our government's angles. It's about the U.S. situation and what they do. There's no good way around any of it.
There's no connection between the policies. For instance, when Peter and I, first came across this, you assume a lot of things that the IRS and the Department of State communicate with each other, which they do not. And so you hear a lot of fallacies about things like, well, you can't renounce until you've done your taxes. Well, that's not true. And this is the kind of thing that we found out by researching ourselves, and then we shared the information on our blog. And each person's situation is so unique, so what we're trying to do is get as much information out as we're aware of so that people can look at it and say, okay, does it make sense for me to renounce? Can I afford to renounce? Because some people are wealthy enough that they will have to pay the exit tax to renounce. Someone like me, I don't have that much money, so, I just became compliant with my taxes, just filing the forms, really, and got out to protect my family. Everyone's different.
Probably the best way that Canadians can protect themselves is simply not to admit that they're a U.S. person at all.
So you're saying lie?
No. Citizenship by international, like the Declaration of Human Rights of the United Nations is something that belongs to the person and not to the country. Okay, so you have the right to change nationalities. And so what's happening is there's a lot of Canadians who go across the border and they take their Canadian passport and they give it to the border guard. And he says, oh, you have a U.S. birthplace. You're an American. You have to come into our country on a U.S. passport. And the answer to that is, I am not an American. And people should stand up for their right. And so when they say,
so when they say, what are you?
They
say I'm a Canadian.
They will say, but look, you were born in the United States, you're an American until we tell you that you're not. Well, the fact of the matter is, you're the citizenship that you want to be. So when you became a Canadian, what was your intention in becoming a Canadian? Was it to be a Canadian and a Canadian only? If that's the case, then you're not an American anymore.
But you hear stories of the IRS playing hardball, coming in, seizing property, and without really the due process.
But they can't do
and
that.
Playing hardball with it. Now, and also now, so here you are up against, in your scenario you just presented, up against armed American border people, right?
Not
and the
very
Canadian
intimidating.
government, through this legislation, there's the evidence that our government, the Canadian government, is not supporting its people and is just going to hand people over to the U.S. or to anybody who wants it.
It gets worse. Outside of the FATCA issue, I don't think most Canadians know that the Harper government has consistently basically erased our border. 7 years ago, there was a program called Shipwriter where our guys, like in the Coast Guard, run ships together and law enforcement can come on Canadian waters. Now, the Border Action Plan, soon American police officers will be able to come up and, supposedly operate under the authority of the RCMP. 2 weeks ago, they asked that they want to operate on American law on our soil.
They asked, or they're getting
said
it?
That's what they're going to do.
Is the government going to stand up to
They haven't
them?
stood up to this one. Why would they stand up to that one?
So what can they,
Well, what they do is, if you're a tax evader, they come up to your door and haul you out of Canada. You got to look at what's possible.
So what's really going on here? What can anybody do about this? Because if
you have to change your name and have
no,
a PO box.
all in general,
Become a
Canadians
fugitive.
have to vote this government out. Is essentially what we have to do,
then
reverse.
Can
these
we
things.
reverse this?
Yes, we can. Of course, we can easily reverse these things because these are things that have been brought in, and they can be reversed. They're human decisions.
Wait, I got a question.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, sure, we could do that, but the reality is, and Peter, you sort of touched on some of it, is like Canadian banks are deeply involved in the U.S. Canadians in general are deeply involved in the U.S. The U.S. can leverage against the Canadian government in all kinds of ways.
And we can do
But
the
we
same
can
back.
Do the same.
They rely on us as well.
What about NAFTA?
That's true.
Take
Well, this
their
is what
oil
this
away.
NAFTA keeps coming up as we talk about this because we got the short end of the deal in NAFTA too. So it sounds to me like this is just another NAFTA thing.
No,
Because
it actually
it's
violates
overriding their clause
NAFTA.
in-
NAFTA, has certain provisions about the banking sector and so forth, but the current agreement is basically taking away many of the rights that Canada has in NAFTA.
Okay, but let's maybe just, I want to look at a bigger, broader picture here, because, I mean, and maybe even speaks to some of the reasons why you may have come to Canada and chosen Canada as your place of citizenship. Because what we see in the U.S. Since 9/11, or even since before, is the erosion of the Bill of Rights, the fundamental principles on which the United States was founded, and it just gets
freedoms,
it
I
seems to
guess.
be getting worse all the time. Now they're throwing their weight around, influencing countries like Canada, and our government is caving into this, and we're seeing our rights here in Canada as citizens being eroded. Like, you know, it seems that the fundamental problem is bigger than this issue. It's bigger than either of our countries. Like, you know, I just wonder if you have any thoughts about what the real, like, why is this happening, and what might some real solutions be? I know it's a big
Does the U.S.
question.
need that money that bad?
Well, I think a lot of it is because people are afraid, and they've been made to be afraid. So then they go, you know what? I'd rather give away some of my rights so that I can be safe.
This is,
you're talking about the
nuts.
terrorism. Yeah.
it's nuts.
Then you consider the United States is borrowing something like 41 cents on every dollar that it spends as a federal government. So yes, they are very, very worried about their budget and the possible debasement of the U.S. dollar. And so they're looking for new sources of revenue.
Well, that's
And
one
that
one
becomes
level.
very obvious, at least from our point of view.
But if you do the math, right, on compound interest and the $16 trillion national debt, it's never going to be paid off.
No. I mean,
You
sometimes
know?
in some cases of these situations where people have entered into the OVDP, which is the Overseas Voluntary Disclosure Program, because it's a criminal program. You know, if you haven't been filing your U.S. taxes when you go into this thing, you know, some people have been they've been charged like $3,000 in fines or something like that. Like,
$3,000?
no, I'm saying like a guy who has, you know, like barely any money, and he gets a $3,000 fine levied against him, and they take it. So what's that going to do for the U.S. government? They're going to take these little bits of money here and there. It's not going to do any good for them at all.
Well,
But yet they still take it.
It won't even pay the interest.
Yeah.
Well,
I know.
it's going to fail anyway. The system's going to
ridiculous.
crash.
Yeah. I mean, some people have been completely fleeced.
Yeah.
Some
Completely
people have
fleeced.
lost their retirements. That's
Yeah.
what sort of someone in my age group in the 50s, you know, you're looking at that and saying, oh my God.
And who benefits? Nobody, except maybe the
Nobody.
bankers who are still walking away with giant bonuses every year.
Bankers.
Well, the
Banksters.
compliance
Yeah.
industry, I mean, I have an office near my house called United States Tax Services. And so these people are here in our country helping U.S. persons to file their taxes.
Finally, they're into the program.
So who are, sorry?
The tax preparers.
These
They're like
tax
H&R
preparers.
Block
They're
for
gonna
the
be making
U.S.
piles
the
of money
H&R, they're US
on the
tax
backs of
services.
poor, scared Canadians who think they must do this.
And if you walk into the office of a U.S. cross-border specialist tax preparer, then they will scare the hell out of you when you walk in and you ask them, well, I think I might be a U.S. person. And they won't tell you, well, maybe the first thing you should investigate is whether or not you really are a U.S. person. That's the first question. Just because you were born in the United States doesn't mean you are a U.S. person. You may have actually relinquished your citizenship when you became a Canadian. And that's-
Really? Without knowing?
Without knowing it, because, actually, most of the people did know, because when they became a Canadian citizen, not only did the vow of citizenship at different periods in Canadian history had renunciations of all former citizenships, but also the United States told them, if you become a Canadian, then you won't be an American anymore. Up until 1986, when the law changed because of a Supreme Court decision. So here there were thousands and thousands of people who became Canadian citizens before 1986.
Oh, they're probably so
they were
happy.
told that they were no longer U.S. persons, and now when they cross the border innocently, they are told, you are a U.S. person, you must use a U.S. passport. Now, once you get the passport, it's harder to go into the consulate and say, oh, well, I relinquished my citizenship in 1962. Oh, really? Well, why were you traveling on a U.S. passport then? You are a U.S. person. And so this is why it's a form of entrapment.
Okay, guys. Well, this is a very sticky issue, and we need to defeat the government.
Yes.
And I think we might need to take extra legal steps to make sure that everybody's freedom is protected. And I'm not sure what that means, but I'm sure we will
I think we need to call in
travel
the
down
aliens.
that road. No, I just...
That's the only. I think we need to get off this planet
Yeah.
and look at. They're the only one, unbiased, independent. We
Who?
need to go.
The aliens.
Aliens.
Yeah.
We need to go to the aliens. I really think we do. Holy cow! This just seems like a just.
So
I
what's
don't
that website?
see the-
Isaac Brock Society?
isaacbrocksociety.ca.
My God.
No,
I
and
just
tell
don't
us a
like
little bit
that.
about, I mean, is it for expat Americans or is it for
It's
any Canadian
anybody. It's for
Anybody who has
anybody.
any issue, even Canadians, full
Oh.
Canadians who don't have U.S.
Before-
personhood, who are married to a U.S. person.
We have laws.
And before you know it, they're going to say, "Hey, it's even if you have a U.S. friend,
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, that's right. They have it.
you speak to anybody, even if you better ask before you even speak to a stranger, are you from the U.S.?"
Yeah.
People will
It's
stop
becoming a
marrying.
toxic thing to
Yeah.
be. You don't want to be a U.S. person of any kind because it's toxic. Like literally, if you think about, I'm going to retire to some other country. Well, if they've signed an IGA too, well, you're going to be tainted because my passport says I was born in the U.S. So when I go down to another country, say like Costa Rica, where I thought, hey, I'd like to retire there someday, it's going to say right on my passport, my Canadian passport, U.S., born in the U.S. So they're going to consider me toxic person. I can't get a bank account there. I can't bank there.
Have they signed that agreement in
Yes.
Costa Rica?
Costa
Yes,
Rica
they
has done
have.
it.
Oh.
When did they do before?
They did it before Canada. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Switzerland did. UK
Switzerland.
did.
Major
France
companies.
has. Singapore might have, or no,
Not
Singapore
yet.
hasn't.
Do you guys have all this listed on the website?
There's
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
somewhere.
Okay, you guys
There is
need to
so
go to
much
Kickstarter because you've just
information.
included the world.
Yeah.
Oh well, the world. The smaller you get, the harder it is to get out. Who can exist without their U.S. connection to money?
Yeah.
So you can basically, the other 190 countries of the world will be entrapped by FATCA. There's no doubt about it.
Unless the U.S. dollar becomes not the standard anymore.
Well,
Which
we're hoping
is-
for the BRICS. Yes.
which is also very, very, very possible.
Although,
Well-
look what's happened. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but you've heard rumors that Iraq, before
Yeah, I heard that.
the war, was working to start trading
Oh,
oil
I
for
think
euros.
Oh, yeah. And yes, and
then
Libya wanted to go into the
Libya
gold
had
standard.
their own, exactly.
Well-
and look what happened to these countries that dare to
Yeah.
challenge the U.S. dollar as a petrocurrency.
Now wait till
then
China decides to challenge it.
Well,
They won't sign
they're
it.
still in negotiations with FATCA, but the other thing is there was talk that the BRICS, the hope that Brazil, Russia, India,
Mm-hmm.
China, and South Africa would be able to establish a different currency. That's probably really the only way the world can fight them.
Yeah. Has to be another
And
currency.
hope that another currency can replace the U.S. as the world's reserve
Well,
currency.
the way that the way that they are doing the quantitative easing, just printing the money, it's surprising to me that they are keeping the U.S. dollar as strong as it is. And even
I don't think
against,
they are. I think they're
even
faking
against
it.
the Canadian dollar, which
Yeah.
is falling right now.
Yeah, that just
Yeah.
seems so out of
the
place.
minute people lose faith in it, though,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to happen in one
See,
day.
they're going to do it to
Someday
themselves
it
because
will
of this,
happen.
though.
Yeah.
They're going to do it to themselves because everybody is tired of having to,
Kowtow.
kowtow to them and file and report.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I mean, they're just not going to want to do it anymore.
People are tolerant, but everybody has their
breaking
Limits.
point.
yes.
Okay, guys. Well, let's keep our eyes on this issue. We'd love to have you back, and
Yeah.
as the issue develops, and I really wish you and all of us the best of luck in fighting this and other ridiculous.
Guys, go to Kickstarter.
policy.
Yeah, we will. Thank you very much.
And
Okay,
thanks,
guys.
Paul Hellier.
Thank you.
And again, people can follow up going to isaacbrocksociety.ca, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's what a way to end the show.
Yeah, I don't even know what video to play.
God,
I think
everything
maybe
seems like not important anymore.
Sorry.
it's okay, but we could either watch the
Watch a happy video.
about. Okay, let's
What
watch.
about YouTube cats?
There we go.
Okay,
There's a
we're gonna do the
girl.
YouTube
Okay.
cats.
I
We're
love
doing
that.
the YouTube cats.
Because you know what? The FEMA coffins are being changed to cat shelters now.
That's what
we
we're
talk-
doing. That's our program. You know the FEMA coffins? We're going to convert them into cat shelters.
FEMA is that comes after what you guys are. So we're taking the FEMA
Right.
coffins and now we're putting them to cat shelters.
I love cats.
I love cats more.
I'm thinking about cats right now. Okay, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time here on Liquid Lunch.
I love them more.
No, I do.
Kind of cat. I just want to hug all of them, but I can't hug every cat. Can't hug every cat. So anyway, I am a cat lover and I love to run. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about cats again. I really love cats. I'm thinking about cats again and again and again and again and again. I think about how many don't have a home and how I should have them. I think about how cute they are and how their ears and the whiskers and the nose. I just love them and I want them and I want them in a basket and I want little bow ties. I just love them. And I want them to be on a rainbow and in my bed, and I just want us to roll around, round, round. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I love cats. I love every kind of cat. I just want to hug all of them, but I can't hug every cat.